It is 8:01 a.m. and I would like to call the July 12th Whatcom County Public Utility District Commission regular meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And on today's agenda, we are just jumping right into strategic planning to make the most use of Jim Darling's time. And then we'll get to the approval of the agenda and consent agenda later. So Jim, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay. Good morning. Let me get my video going. Good morning, everyone. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Where we are with the plan is that we have the PowerPoint formatted version of it that everybody's reviewed. And we just have a couple really minor things for me to point out to you this morning on that. And one of them's a question I have. And then it's gone to the designer and he is working on that this week. And I should have something early next week in terms of design for everybody to look at. That's the plan at least, and take a look. But we need to really wrap up the content, the substance of it today if we can. That would be terrific. Knowing that when you later on when you get it in the design format, we can always make a change again. So that's not a big issue. Let me share my screen and let me know if you can see that.
Yep.
Let me go to a bigger screen. I think it might be. Can you see that now? Is that better?
Looks good.
So, okay. So let me, and remember, this is not design. This is just the preliminary version. The one thing I wanted to ask you is we had a discussion about the name, and just to point out that in this version, it's Whatcom Public Utility District. And we have dropped the number 1 of Whatcom County designation. So
I have a question about that, Jim.
Sure.
To commissioners, I believe we got an email from Ann on behalf of staff on the labeling. I just want to make sure we cover that subject right now.
Yeah, I mean, what's your pleasure on this?
Yeah, I personally, speaking on this issue, I'm indifferent. I just want consistency. I've always found it, but it's a learning curve. At first I found it odd. Why do we need to say number 1 when there's no number 2? You know, it's like the First Baptist Church. I don't get it. But anyway, if there's no Second Baptist Church, you don't need a first one. So But anyway, whatever people are comfortable with, I'm totally go with the flow on this. So I just wanted to, but make sure we address the concern from staff.
Well, not to put anyone on the spot, but I think the comment originated from Rebecca and was related to how some of our grant agencies know our organization. Rebecca, do you want to, or Ann, do either of you want to share anything about that concern, or whether we should?
Yeah, I certainly don't want to make anything more difficult. We deal with plenty of bureaucracy as it is. I don't want to make something more difficult for staff.
Let me just jump in and maybe simplify this a little bit. We have a legal entity existence, and that's how we were originally filed when we had the election back in 1937. So that's our actual title. It's Whatcom Public Utility District number 1. And that's going to be on all of our legal documentation. The strategic plan is not that. And what we choose to put in here has more to do with our branding choices than it does with our legal identity. So I agree that it needs to be consistent inside this document. But I think that the consistency needs to be with our branding efforts, which unfortunately are going to go on later this year. So if I may just jump in at this point, as long as we make it consistent on this document, if you guys would allow me to defer, and we can go back after this is all done, we've adopted it, we've got it, it's all ready. If we make a change through our branding, we can go back and just redo that part of this document later on this year and make it consistent if we make a change in branding, just so we don't get wrapped around the axle today.
Personally, I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with that too. I do think that there were some good points made about dropping the county so that people don't think we're affiliated with the county. And also the number 1 is just really confusing to anybody that's not deeply involved in the PUD world.
Well, what we could do is we can call it Whatcom Public Utility District, or I think later on that might get abbreviated Whatcom PUD. The logo is your old logo. I suggest we leave that for now. I don't think as Chris said, I don't think it's going to jump out off the page. And when you get a new logo, we can substitute it in there.
Right on. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mike,
so
I just want to hear. I want to make sure we hear from Mike on this.
I'm okay with the way it reads right now, as I see presented, Whatcom Public Utility District. It still identifies us, tells everybody who we are, and I do like the idea that county is taken out of it. I think it'll be okay this way. Thanks.
okay. So moving on, not to alarm anybody that says Whatcom County, that is part of the mapping. This map is being redone. This is a placeholder. This is where we landed on the mission statement, and here we used Whatcom PUD. We could spell that out. Probably should spell it out to Whatcom Public Utility District for the mission statement.
I'd prefer that. Yeah.
Yeah. So hang on here. And on this one, we noted, Commissioner Murphy, that we have a design note here in red that we're going to add those photos. I'm working with Ann on photos that tell the story about the PUD's operations. In moving on, then this is a table of contents. This is still under design here with the designer on what actually it looks like, and it'll have page numbers too. The message from the commission, we had one little change on that that we caught, so we've made that change. The strategic planning, no changes there. The little bit of the history, no changes there. The organization, we have the full-time reports to the GM, and this is, once again, this is being done over. I added the 2022 just because it may change, and this will timestamp it to one extent. The vision, once again on this one, I think on the vision we should spell out Whatcom Public Utility District, I think. Let me do that. This was the vision statement that we entered on last time. It's very straightforward. Our values, we did catch this on the 4th one down. The previous one on be innovative, question status quo, and act strategically, we had dashes in there, and we changed that to periods. I think it's more effective. Commissioner Grant caught that. I think that was good. So these values of what we discussed before, they too are very to the point and succincted, which is good. Goals and strategies, there's an intro page. There's only one change in these, and it is, well, there's two changes. One on this page, page 13, under the water resources, I had the impression that the previous one said that that strategy WR1 was to advance the PUD's position on water rights. I was under the impression that you had or were going to adopt a position statement on that, and that would have been done by the time we went to press on the plan. If if I was wrong in that, that's not true. I think that this modification captures it, that the first strategy is to adopt and advance that position on water rights. So have we adopted that yet?
No, and can I speak on this one, Chair? I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a little bit of a thing that the landscape on water rights is constantly evolving. And I think we want to avoid language that implies that we're going to put a stake in the ground as it relates to water rights on a county-wide basis. Obviously, we're doing everything we can to prosecute and protect our paper water rights for the PUD. That's not what I'm referring to. What I am referring to is that we want to maintain an ability to play a constructive role in the county, and we don't want to put a stake in the ground. Probably, of course, Chris, other commissioners, and Steve may want to comment on this subject.
Well, I was the one that raised this with Jim after going through the PowerPoint one more time in preparation for this meeting. And we had a pretty different version of it in a previous strategic planning session, and then it moved to this. I'm almost wondering if we even need it, because I think, to me, like you said, Commissioner Deshmani, this is something that's constantly evolving, and we are responding as needed, as our position on different issues is requested by others in the community. I was also unclear about what advancing meant. That felt to me sort of aggressive almost, and not like in tune with what we've been doing for the last year and a half. So I think that the strategies 2 and 3 really capture what we're doing. I don't know how we would even evaluate whether we were successful on this strategy. John, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I concur, and just from a legal perspective, I think with regard to WR1, this is too fluid, too dynamic. And from a legal strategy, I would not want to be communicating legal positions, because this is really a legal process on the pursuit and protection of the water rights. So I concur with both the commissioners' comments, and from a legal perspective, I would strike WR1. And WR2, I would suggest, instead of establish PUD rights, I would say protect and preserve PUD rights. Our position is we've already established the rights. Those exist, and
Oh, I like that.
protect and preserve.
I like that. If I may, Commissioner Grant, also, I want to make sure that if Chris and Steve have anything to say about this.
Steve's got his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just agree with Commissioner Grant and John's comments. I think that eliminate strategy WR1 and then make the change in WR2. I think that WR2 covers our position as it is right now, and I think that with those word changes that John just suggested, I think that should cover it.
Thank you, Steve.
So,
John, this is Jim. You said protect and preserve in lieu of.
Correct.
Okay, got it. I got it.
In lieu of establish.
Yeah, right. I got it.
so
Okay.
this is Chris. Can I jump in for a sec?
Yeah.
Just bear in mind that as the water picture evolves in Whatcom County, it's possible, if not likely, that we're going to end up expanding the water system, taking over additional rights. So I just don't want people to think that whatever the rights are that we've established, that's some kind of high watermark, so to speak. But in fact, that it's going to evolve over the next 20 years in ways that we really can't foresee right now.
Chris, do you think that this WR2 captures that, or is it?
Well, I think so. I think that everybody just has to recognize that it'd be very hard to put in anything other than a large white paper, kind of the concept that I'm getting at. And it's almost too big to put in the strategic plan just because it's so complicated. But the idea is that our rights aren't static, and they may in fact increase over time.
And Jim, I would say, I think in the header, the W, continued PUD support, assistance, and regional efforts, that large umbrella covers what Chris is speaking to.
Yeah,
That's true. That's pretty broad.
Good point. Good point.
All right, so I'll make those changes. And then on the next
Wait,
pages.
before we move on, I just want to make sure we didn't hear from Commissioner Murphy at all on that one, and I want to make sure he feels comfortable with those changes.
Thank you. I'd like to direct my question to Steve and Rebecca. When it says that under water resources, continue to PUD support and assistance in regional efforts to protect and manage local water resources, I'm more interested in what they think that means. And if you want to remove the wire one, I'm okay with that. But I feel there's something else that should be said about water resources that we must be missing, because 2 and 3 to me does not cover what the continuous support and assistance in the region to protect and manage says. So am I missing something, Steve, Rebecca?
I don't think we're missing anything. I think that it's hard to identify in specific language what you're trying to, what you're asking. And I think that leaving it the way it is right now with the change that we just, or that you just agreed to, I think that should cover it. I think that this gets back to what Christine said earlier, that this is, it's a dynamic situation. And I think that we have to be careful that we don't get very specific. I think that when we look at WR and then WA and then WS, I think that we've got that covered. But
can I make one, well, Mike, any follow up on that?
No, I'm okay.
all right.
So just back to WR2, I just wonder if we have the language right there. Well, and a small thing is that countywide is one word. So participate, I just wonder if we should change it to participate in countywide water rights adjudication process. And rather than saying protect and preserve, I wonder if we might make it a more positive framing, like, and demonstrate the community-wide benefits of preserving PUD water rights. Because it's not just about winning a legal battle, it's about demonstrating the value of us having these rights to our community. So it's just and I see Commissioner Deshmani has a hand up, so maybe I'll just pass the mic to you, Commissioner Deshmani, and maybe you can talk about that. Or Steve, did you want to respond to what I just said?
No, I would ask Commissioner Deshmani to jump in, and then I might have some comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that's a really good point, and I'm sorry we're discovering this point a little bit late in this discussion, but I agree with the point you're making, and I'm not sure if anybody has suggestions on how to put that in the language. I just wanted to clarify Commissioner Murphy's comments. Commissioner Murphy, are you talking about the word water association itself creates a boundary for the support that the PUD provides, and that we may want to provide support that extends beyond the boundaries of just officially water associations? Is that kind of what you're thinking, or did I misinterpret?
Yes. No, that's what I'm thinking, as well as I was going to make comments on WR2. I'd rather not us say we're establishing PUD rights. I feel that we are representatives of the community, and that if anything, we are trying to protect the communities. I don't know if I want to call it water rights. I don't think that's a good word to use, but we're here representing the community, doing what is the best for the community. and not for establishing something for ourselves. Also.
You know, here's the thing, if I may cut in here, Commissioner Murphy, there's on the one side, this drive that I don't want to put on John's shoulders, but because you're an attorney, John, I'm going to put it on your shoulders. And that is this desire to be clear about what our responsibility and what, you know, what our official rights are. And then there's this concept of responsibilities and privileges that those rights give us. And I think there's a desire to capture both of those ideas in the strategy on the water resources. And now and also to capture Commissioner, on a separate note, to capture Commissioner Murphy's point, I think we want to recognize that there may be things that we're doing that don't necessarily help a particular water association, help the community at large as it relates to water scarcity issues, because I think all of us will have in the subsequent years in our districts, and have already had individuals or maybe not water association people or community members who are suffering because of a lack of water. And so I think we want to be sympathetic to those situations as well. So I talked about two separate things here.
Commissioner Dismay, this is Jim. I thought that was captured in water supply, particularly WS2. I thought that was the point of that one.
And when you say that, who are you referring? Which of the 2 points are you referring to?
Addressing the need for water outside of just the associations.
Right, and WS2 in particular. Right.
Right.
I think
that was the intent of that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have 3 hands up. John Sitkin, why don't you go first? I don't know who got their hand up first.
Certainly, I would just say, again, Commissioner Despine, I guess I would look at the larger header. For instance, underwater resources, continue the support and assistance in regional efforts to protect and manage local water resources. I think we can't lose context of where these more specific strategies fall under. And I think that larger header as the goal kind of covers what you were speaking to.
Okay.
Chris?
So I think, you know, taking a step back and kind of look at the intent of how this thing is grouped. Underwater, we've got three legs to this stool. The first is essentially the legal leg, and that is, you know, what rights do we have, and all that kind of stuff. The second is, who do we want to help in our community? And that's the water association support. Now, if that's not inclusive enough, you know, we can add or make it more general. And then the third is, you know, given that people today have kind of this mindset that it's a zero-sum game, that the pie can't be grown, I think that's a false narrative. I think there's a lot of things that humans can do that will in fact enhance the supply itself. So these are the 3 strategic directions that we've got. And then within that, we've got some specific goals. So I just want to remind everybody what the structure of this is all about. It's 3 really different thrusts that we've got in the water arena. And that's where we're trying to head with this thing. So as long as you kind of keep it separated in your minds that way, I think we've got everything fairly well covered. If you want more in there, I think that what we need to do is generalize this a little bit, and then we'll be a little bit more inclusive. But you know, then you run the risk of having it mean almost nothing.
Steve?
I've said for for quite a few years that there's 2 purposes for the PUD in retaining and improving, increasing its water, the status of its water rights. And one is to protect the water for service to our current customers, but the second is to utilize our water rights in the basin to solve other problems. And as we move into adjudication, and as we continue on a fairly significant scale, working with others in the county on trying to identify ways to move water, gain water, get water to areas that don't have them, water rights that don't have them. I think that's what we need to emphasize here. And I think that the big heading, as John keeps referring to it, the water resources, continuing to PUD support assistant and regional efforts covers it. But I think that you could strengthen WR3 possibly to point that out. I think it says it, but support the water rights settlement effort. I mean, that's what we've been really, that's the position that we've taken the last 2 to 3 years here, is that we don't think that adjudication is the best way forward. Recognizing that adjudication's coming, we're preparing for it, but at the same time, we spend a lot of effort and time working with others on the water supply planning process. So all saying is that I think that the big heading under water resources covers it, but I think you could strengthen WR3 if you wanted to.
Okay. So, Jim, how do you want to handle this? Do you want to open this up? This isn't a PDF, it looks like right now. Do you want to move this to a PowerPoint and try to make these edits right now?
Let me just do this real quick. I can do it right here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, perfect.
I was just doing that for the sake of the screen.
Okay, so we're gonna delete that.
So here's what I have here is to drop this WR1 completely, correct?
Yes.
Yep. This becomes WR1. This becomes WR2. And what I have here, so this should be, I think, to protect and preserve PUD, the PUD's rights. Should that be, I'll have to wordsmith it to the, I think.
How about while instead of to? While protecting or?
Oh, that's good.
Is that okay with everyone?
Let me get it in here and see how she reads.
Okay.
Participating in countywide adjudication process while protecting and preserving the PUD's rights. Maybe that should say water rights. How's that read?
Works for me.
I don't believe that.
Oh, Mike, you're breaking up a little bit. Hey, Mike, I can't.
Were about. I still. So what do I do to correct that? Can you hear me better? Or?
I wasn't able to hear much of what you
Is
said.
this
Were others
gonna
able to hear?
help if I take the video off? Can you
Turn off your
hear me
video, Mike.
Clear.
Okay, you want to try again, Mike? I didn't hear anything you said, unfortunately.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me speaking?
Yeah, but it's not, the sound quality is not great.
If I knew hand language, I would do it.
Okay, I think you're sounding a little better now.
Is it possible that maybe Mike could call into Ann or somebody who could do the phone live?
Yeah, is there a call-in number we could send Mike?
Oh, is it my frustration? If you can't hear me, then that's fine. I don't know what else to do.
Well, we can give you, Ann, is there a call-in number we could send Mike?
Yeah, and I'll email him that info.
Okay, thank you.
And again, Mike, if you leave your video off, that might help for.
Commissioner Grant, is the PowerPoint up on your screen? Can you see it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay.
And let's take as long as we need to, Commissioner Grant, until we get Mike's input.
Agreed.
If you can hear me, I am not having success, so I would say go on with
Does somebody want to just call Mike and put him on speakerphone?
I can do that. What? Let me see if I have his. Yeah, I don't have his. Ann, do you have his cell phone number?
Yeah, I'm trying to call him right now.
Oh,
Did
okay.
you hear that?
I didn't really hear much of what you said, Mike.
Okay, I'm just trying to get back in. So, are you hearing me at all? Are you hearing me, anyone?
We can hear you a little bit.
All right, does everyone hear me? Coming through the phone?
Yes.
Now we, yes.
But Ann, are you on speakerphone with Mike?
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Okay. My concern, well, I hear my echo. Let's just move on. Too confusing.
Well, I mean, Mike, we want to hear what you have to say. Could you put it in the chat, or you want to try logging off and logging back on again?
I did that.
You did. Okay.
We can hear you good now.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Are you getting an echo though?
I am getting echo.
Maybe turn off your
Hey,
speaker,
Yeah,
mute
turn-
yourself.
Yeah, I thought I did that. My concern, maybe I'll say, I'm concerned about us using the word preserving PD water rights. Not talking about group, private, agriculture. I just don't feel they represent the whole community.
Okay, so I think I heard that. I'm going to repeat Mike's concern, if that's okay, Commissioner Grant.
Please do.
So what I think I heard is that Mike is concerned about how we're talking about the different groups and their water rights. And the current language doesn't support that. And you may or may not have seen this in the Q&A, which Commissioner Grant has also responded to, is Dave Olson has a suggestion to make the language more inclusive. And I believe that John Sitkin referred to that. We may want to look at ideas to make it more inclusive. And then I think Dave Olson commented in the Q&A feature of the Zoom about language. So maybe we can let Dave Olson try to address this concern that you've raised, either by allowing him to speak at this time, or just Commissioner Grant, you might want to just read his comments.
Yeah, so Dave said water system. Well, the first thing he said was the Water Association support, which is the second bundle of goals and strategies, could be replaced with water system support. Water systems can be inclusive enough to include single family water systems, all the water to city water system, I think all the way to water to city water systems. We also,
including WIDS.
We have also used non-owned water systems. So I think the idea there is just to change association with the word system to indicate that we're wanting to provide support at a range of different levels. Dave, can you put in the chat whether that sounded right? Was the main edit you were hoping for? Okay, he said correct.
And then Commissioner Grant, can we hear from Commissioner Murphy about that, if he feels that that's suitable for his concern?
Yeah, Commissioner Murphy, was that helpful, or were you still having some concerns about strategy 1 at the top?
With what I read under WA, or water system support, I'm starting to feel that is supporting what I believe the PUD is all about. So I'm okay now with water resource WR1 and 2.
Okay,
Great.
I still have one more thought on WR1. And
Give me a type it in.
what was that, Jim?
You want me to type
Oh, now your broadband is not working.
it in?
I couldn't hear anything you said, Jim.
Would you like me to type that in? Can you hear me? Let me
we
type
like
it on
you
the
to
screen.
Type what in?
Your language you sent me.
Yeah, you could do that. I just wonder with WR1 if we might just want to keep it at participate in the county-wide water rights adjudication process. I mean, I think while protecting and preserving the PUD's water rights is fine, but I mean, it's really with the goal of protecting and preserving the PUD's water rights. Or, you know, I think the language that I had brought up before too was participate in county-wide water rights adjudication process and demonstrate the community benefits of preserving and protecting the PUD water rights.
I'll type that up here for you. This is alternative language here in red. It's hard to read that. It's a bad red.
Oops, the PowerPoint went away. Hey, Jim, can you share your screen again so we can see the language? You there, Jim? Oh, there's two of you now. Oh, you're muted.
So an observation,
There you go.
if I could.
Yes.
I'm not sure how that's measured, demonstrate the community benefits. And I'm
Right.
not sure what that, as someone who's maybe tasked with implementing this strategy,
Right.
I'm not sure what that means in terms of, is it, if relocating water rights and a point of appropriation facilitates growth in another community, is that for the community benefit? Or if it has, someone argues that that might harm a fish stock, and that's a debatable factual issue. How do we discern what we're supposed to implement?
Okay. That's a good piece of feedback. Other Commissioner Murphy or Commissioner Deshmani? Thoughts on the language for this one?
I'm fine with this.
Which one, Commissioner?
So I believe that Commissioner Grant, you were proposing some changes, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm fine
Red.
with, yeah. So I'm fine with the red changes. What's in red?
And even so John just mentioned some concerns about how do we measure what community benefits are.
So, okay, so let me address that point of John, maybe more clearly. So words have definitions, and one of the things that we may not have done that we may want to consider doing, define what we mean by strategy. And so for me, in the corporate and organizational training that I've been through, which is different from everybody else on this Zoom call, not to say anything is better or worse, I just have had different pathway. And for me, strategies never are prescriptive. For me, tactics are prescriptive or plans are prescriptive, but in this water research, like I've had conversations with Steve about sometimes where we use the word strategy, which is not the way I would use the word strategy. But I still fall back to my old way of thinking on this. So I think that as long as it's defined, a strategy is defined as a way that makes it clear that we're not saying explicitly what we're going to do and not do, and more of a motivation or an approach to what we're doing and not doing, then this language is fine. I would agree with John's concerns if strategy meant tactic too, or a plan.
I would just say that, for my part, we are a public utility, and just, preserving, we've always talked about how we're protecting and preserving the PUD's water rights to enable us to provide solutions for the community. And I want that sentiment to be reflected here. Not
Maybe
that
that
we're just
instead of demonstrate
trying-
community benefits, maybe it's enable solutions for the community. I guess I see conflicting perceptions of community benefit within the community.
Right, and you don't want any conditionality, John,
Right.
to protecting and preserving.
We have an opportunity, say, in some scenario.
I mean,
And we bring it
Commissioner
back to
Grant,
the
what John's
commission.
referring to is that if we had in our approach that protecting and preserving our rights is somehow conditional upon a particular member in the community saying that, well, I don't think it's a benefit to me for you to protect and preserve. That handicaps our protect and preserve function.
Well, this is
And
where- oh, go ahead, keep going, sorry.
my philosophy on this issue of water is like this. To help people, you have to have resources to help people. Helping the community, that is. Of course, sometimes that means money, sometimes it means water. So we have to have something to offer if we're going to offer it. And so I believe very much in the philosophy of this philosophy, what I just described, is that we have to have something to work with if we're going to extend benefits to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And
Agreed.
it is a myopic thing that every organization, whether it's a public entity, it's a community organization, it's a church or a city or a corporation, always has a bias of believing that it's doing the right thing. And the PUD will never be able to escape that bias. Each one of us as individuals will never be able to escape the bias that we think we're doing the right thing. So I think trying to hamper us from protecting and preserving our rights could be a mistake in any language, because it limits our ability to then, for the commission to do things that are supportive of the community. There's no way that we wouldn't consider things that with respect to the water rights that we protect to benefit the community. We would absolutely consider those things, but we don't have anything to work with if we don't fight to preserve and protect the rights we have. That was long-winded, sorry.
What if you drop the word community?
John Sitkin, what do you think about that?
I think that's better. I'll just highlight my concern by an example. We're having a lot of debate upon removal of the lower Snake River dams. There's to be strong, visceral opinions about the community benefit of retaining the dams or removing the dams. And that's not saying which is right or wrong, but there's going to be visceral views on that point. And I, as an implementer, I don't want to be in a position as we work through this of trying to pick and choose what position people are in. It becomes a very unintended consequence of that phrase seems to be calling out a very positional points. And I appreciated Commissioner Deshmani's comments about, we want to preserve and protect the PUD water rights without having kind of this layer of limitations or creating more politicalization of it. And that's why I think, the enable solutions language you had referenced, Commissioner Grant, seemed less of a potential lightning rod of the politicalization of the issues of what is a benefit. Like, what is the value of removal of the dams, or is it bad?
To respond to your point, John, what I'm about to say is controversial, so I've avoided controversial comments in the past, but I'm going to do it. On the Snake River dams, I'm ambivalent. Meaning I see the merits of arguments for both removing and keeping them, but I would not at all support a strategy which would be to under-maintain the existing infrastructure and protect the existing infrastructure. Because until a more decisive policy decision is made on that, it is a bad idea to not take care of what you have. So that's the analogy I would draw back to what we're dealing with here is while we're evaluating the interests of the community as it relates to water and water adjudication, it's not a good idea to ignore the responsibility as a utility organization that we have to maintain this utility infrastructure. And the water rights are an important part of maintaining infrastructure, just like rebuilding the water plant is, protecting, doing substation maintenance. To me, it's the same, at least in the context of this discussion. There's a lot of similarities. So, and for example, in the private sector, what's happened, some have argued to me that what's happening with the aluminum plant is a result of a lack of attention to long-term process improvement and upgrades in lieu of uncertainty. And so I just want to state is that I think we have a responsibility, particularly as a utility, to maintain the infrastructure, and maintaining the infrastructure means water rights too in this case.
So let me ask this, Jim, and maybe Christine, are we mixing two different concepts that are causing our problem? One is the protect and preserve the PUD's water rights. And the other one is, enable solutions for the community benefit around water supply, habitat, and the rest. It seems we're forcing two concepts together that create the issue and unintended consequences. But the concepts that are out there, everyone kind of may generally agree with. So I'm wondering if it's separating those and essentially having a WR3 around the enable solutions for the community benefit, or for the benefit of the community.
I think you're onto something, John.
Yes.
Steve, do you want to jump in? You've had your hand up for a minute.
Yeah, and I thank you. I totally agree with what John just said, and I'm not so sure if it's adding a WR3 or if it's adding some additional language at WR2, but I totally agree. It's two different pieces. It's participating in the adjudication process to protect our water rights. But the second part is we are a problem solver, and that's what we want to use our water rights for. And so we need to identify ways that we can provide those water rights or use those water rights for solutions in the basin.
So might it be utilize the water PD water rights for for solutions for the community benefit?
I have a wording suggestion. Can I throw it out? So participate in countywide water rights adjudication process, semicolon, protect the PUD's ability to provide water infrastructure system solutions to the community.
Do that again.
Participate in countywide water rights adjudication process, then a semicolon, protect the PUD's ability to provide water infrastructure system solutions to the community. I just emailed it to you too, Jim.
I'm kind of agreeing. Let me just give you a third party thing here. I think that the WR1 and WR2 are focused on water rights. I think we're trying to put too much into this one. And I think you'd be better off having a separate WR3 that talks about this issue. I think you need to have this direction on preserving the PUD's water rights, and then add to that a WR3 that says, essentially, John, you started to capture it with utilize the PUD water rights to
enable solutions for the community-wide benefit.
Enable solutions for what?
For the benefit of the community. I was trying to extrapolate something Christine had said earlier.
I think I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with this now, with the addition of this. Commissioner Deshmani, Commissioner Murphy, how are you two feeling?
I like that. Yeah.
Commissioner Murphy, are you able to, I'm actually not even, oh, there you are. Can you hear us and everything okay, Mike?
I hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you. Yeah.
I agree with what I'm reading now with 1, 2, and 3. I have to take myself back to remember PUD stands for public utility. So we are serving the community. I just have to remember that, not us. It's about the community. So public utility, if I read it that way, is supporting the community.
Right. That's what I'm trying to get at too. And I think we get at that by adding 3. Are we?
I think so, and I think it's a great improvement. And I apologize for being long-winded in this conversation, but I think where we've gotten to is significantly better. So thanks.
I agree. And we got one more hand up from Steve, it looks like.
I think this is really reflective of, I'll just say it personally, all the work that we're doing, excuse me, between the adjudication process and our significant involvement in the Watershed Management Board work and the settlement discussions. I think this really gets to the point.
Okay, can we just get a thumbs up from the 3 commissioners if we're okay moving on? Okay, Jim, sorry that took so long, but I'm really glad we revisited it.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, this is the messy business of working as a group on these strategic issues. So, so beyond that, the only other change we had was a good catch by Ann. It was just a simple numbering system. We had what looked like 2 CIs for clean industry and community impact analysis. So we changed them to, it's just an editing thing. We changed it to CL. That one should be CL as well. So that was it. And those are the changes. That's all we had. So we're good to go unless you want to walk through all the rest of the plan. I think
I'm not sure I like the use of the word. I'm not sure if I like their acronym CIA. You know.
All right. Let's change it to CA. I hear you. I hear you.
So yeah, Jim, just to, so this is going to the graphic designer now, and we have, so no, the content of the PowerPoint, I know you're going to do an edit for just grammar and typos, but do we need to make a resolution right now? Because my understanding, so language though is set in stone now.
Well, it's set in stone until you see the first draft of the design plan, and then then there'll be a point at which the commission will either by resolution or voice vote, I'm not sure, will approve the final design plan. I'm already in the designer's already got it. He's working on it right now, so I'll go back to him with these changes. But Chris, I would defer to you on the approval process.
Okay, Chris.
So the way I view this is today the commission looks at the content and says, yes, we're good with this. And what that does is a couple of things. It frees up Jim to make the final arrangements with the graphics people. It frees up me to start using all of this in evaluating budget items for next year. So let's go. And it frees up all of the folks that are working on different parts of these goals and strategies to go forward. Now, Jim's put together an action plan that kind of tracks all those goals, and they play out through the year. But that's what this does. And the other thing, and I'll keep reminding folks, this is a living document. If 2 months from now or 3 months from now, you commissioners want to revisit something and tinker with it, that's fine. And we'll just do that and, you know, and move it around. I would much rather that you guys look at this periodically and have input and guidance than it sit on a shelf someplace and nobody knows about it but me and staff.
So,
Oh,
so with
and I
that,
don't know if we're, Jim, I don't know if we're to it yet, but I have comments on the letter.
okay.
So Commission, I have got several minor wordsmithing things that intended to reduce the wordiness of this letter. I wanted to wait to review this letter until our plan was pretty stable, because I feel like to some degree it's like an executive summary. The message from the commission. So I have one substantive change, which is just adding a sentence, and then I've got several minor changes, and I'd like to know how you'd like to handle that, Chair.
I think we should do it right now.
Okay, so may I then go ahead and go through my changes?
Yeah. Can you
Okay, and-
zoom in a little bit, Jim, so we can see better?
I'm just pulling them up.
That any better?
Okay. So the first sentence, I want to replace the word with the word in this strategic plan instead of with this strategic plan. Also in the first sentence, I want to delete the word decisive. The Whatcom PUD Commission is setting a new path forward for this organization.
We okay, Commission?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, now onto the second sentence. It starts with acknowledging that. I want to delete the words acknowledging that and just start with our human resources are our greatest assets. Also in this second
Well, that
sentence.
kind of makes the rest of the sentence, our human resources are, oh, keep going.
So the way the sentence would read is our human resources are our greatest assets. Hyphen. We are asking the PUD staff to join us to reimagining how the PUD can help address, and I want to delete some of. Just goes to address the most critical infrastructure challenges facing Whatcom County. Because as an infrastructure organization, I think we're capable of saying that we're addressing the most critical infrastructure challenges facing Whatcom County, which is energy, water, and broadband. As far as infrastructure goes, I don't think there's anything more pressing than what the PUD deals with.
Okay.
So that's the second sentence. Okay, moving on. On the second paragraph, I want to replace the word is with are, and it'll be clear why in a second. But basically we'll read, there are no shortage of challenges period. And I want to delete to tackle. So the first sentence would read, there are no shortage of challenges, period. Okay, moving on to the second sentence, I want to restructure the sentence, hopefully to improve readability. As we emerge from a global pandemic, our community is grappling with : and then what I'm suggesting is the following items are a list: broadband internet infrastructure that is not sufficient to meet the needs of all, and I have another change here, eliminating the word all. So the first item would be broadband internet infrastructure that is not sufficient to meet the needs of our community members. Of our community, and delete the word members. So the first item would be broadband internet infrastructure is not sufficient to meet the needs of our community, comma. And the next item in the list would be facing the impacts of climate change. So I want to delete the word directly and damaging. So instead of saying directly facing the damaging impacts of climate change, saying facing the impacts of climate change, comma. And the next item in the list would be navigating complex energy markets and clean energy mandates. Again, deleting the word increasingly. And the last item in the list would be and in need of solutions to protect our water resources, and get rid of the word new solutions. And then the last sentence would be the same.
Okay,
Moving on to
let's take a minute to read, because that was a lot of changes. So there
Yeah.
are no shortage of challenges. As we emerge from a global pandemic, our community is grappling with broadband internet infrastructure that is not sufficient to meet the needs of our community. I think we got to just say the damaging impacts of climate change. Facing.
Yeah, that's, I
So
think, yeah. Okay,
the damaging impacts of climate change.
that's better, yeah.
Again, I think we need to take the verb out. Complex energy markets and clean energy mandates.
That's good too, yeah.
And
Thank you.
the need for solutions to protect our water resources.
Yeah.
I would argue to put new back in, and the need.
Okay, yeah, I'm
for
open to
new
understanding why. Why did you put
solutions.
new? I'm just curious. What was the need?
Because of things like, I don't know what strategy number it is, but like the Skagit model where, providing
Oh, right.
water
Okay.
to wells that are going dry or
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
pumping. Okay. So, and the need for new solutions, not of.
So does that have the effect of eliminating existing solutions? Or
No.
minimizing existing solutions?
That's
I know
what
this is
cover
just
letter
a letter, but just an observation.
I think this cover letter is about highlighting some things rather than describing the entire strategic plan. So I think I'm fine with adding just new. I mean, leaving it as new.
It does beg the question, though, that are some of the solutions that have been proposed in the past are not acceptable. I don't know.
Well, to move forward as an organization, we want to do things that are new for sure. It doesn't mean that what we did in the past was not acceptable. It just means we want to do things that are new.
Yeah.
Anything else, Commissioner?
John,
The question might get asked by someone reading a letter, are they discarding an existing project because it's not, quote, new?
yeah.
What do you change the word new to future?
I like new better than future. It's more clear than future.
Or we could say, and new needs for, I don't know, what did it say before?
Would it be acceptable to leave the word new out?
Yeah, it's of course I propose it, so yes, that's acceptable to me. But yeah, I also understand what Commissioner Grant is trying to accomplish.
We could say, and new needs for water resource solutions. The idea is that we're facing new needs. There's more needs in the community than there used to be, and we need to provide solutions to them.
How about innovative? The thing about new is it's temporal in nature, of old and
Yeah,
now.
but when what Commissioner Grant is suggesting, we're putting new before the word needs. Now we're not talking about new is no longer describing solutions.
It's new needs.
New is now describing what's coming from the community.
Oh, I see. A new need.
For water resource solutions.
And that really falls under this, what this paragraph is about challenges. And new needs are a challenge. So I think that it's a fundamental change to that last item in the list. And I think it's saying a different thing, moving new before needs instead of before solutions. As long as you recognize that, Commissioner Grant, but that it is definitely a challenge, new needs.
And okay, so and new needs, so drop the A for protecting our water resources.
Or isn't it better to say to protect our water resources?
Sure, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry I keep beating this. Jim caught my issue right on, is that new expresses a temporal component. And whether in this phrase about speaking of needs or solutions, it always suggests the prior need may undervalue the prior need or the undervalue the prior solutions. Fish habitat was an ongoing need. That's not new. The problem for fish habitat or fish.
Well, yeah, but we spent a century ignoring not the PUD. I'm not putting this on the PUD, but 50 years ago, ecology was the enemy of, I would argue, the tribal interests. And today they're advocating for adjudication. So talk about, history, ecology definitely needs to take a new approach. And of course, this is not pointed at the PUD, but there's definitely new needs emerging that are actually, there's a difference between the ecosystem having a need to be supported and us actually codifying that in the behaviors of our human organizations. And those needs have been there for a long time to protect fish habitat, but that's different from saying that I don't think it's important to capture that point here. It's important to think is capture is that we are codifying at the state level, at the federal level, new needs, and we have to respond to those new needs for solutions to protect our water resources.
Chris has his hand up.
Yeah. Oh, hang on a second. Have I got my mute? Oh, no. So I would just suggest use the word all instead of new.
All and all needs. I don't know if that works. As we emerge from
the need to protect our water resources.
I mean, I think I'm kind of with Commissioner Deshmani that we are facing new challenges. And I that's what I was trying to capture in the original version of this, which was and in need of new solutions to protect our water resources.
I think that this gets it. I think we're burrowing into the weeds here that this is just a message from the commission, not just, but this is a message from the commission. And I think it recognizes that you're looking at new things out there. I wouldn't be overly concerned with I think it's a huge change to move it from new solutions to new needs. I think it gets rid of that temporal thing that Steve was talking about, that the old solutions were not good. So I think that there are new needs out there. If that's what you want to say. It really.
It's what I want to say. And let's not be in the business of deciding what the needs are. We're supposed to respond to needs that come from outside of our organization.
Yeah. This doesn't detract from what the things you've been doing already that have worked well at all.
Wants and needs are what drive organizations like us to do things.
I'm good.
And we don't define wants and needs. We try to capture wants and needs, and we never do it correctly, but we always try to do it better.
I'm okay with this sentence now, the way it is. Commissioner Murphy, are you?
I am good with the way it reads now.
Okay.
For the sake of time, Commissioner Desmani, is there any other thing in the letter? Are you?
Oh yeah, we're on second paragraph. I've got a couple. Actually, I don't have a lot more. I just have two more changes, but I've one for paragraph 3 and one for paragraph 4.
Could we do those? Just for the sake of time here.
Yeah, for sure. Are we ready, Commissioner Grant?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to change in paragraph 3 the opening preposition from, instead of having at the same time, I'd like to propose that the opening preposition be, our business and social environments presents challenges as well. And then start the we face as a capital W, a new sentence.
Our business and social environment
present challenges as well.
and drop at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of at the same time, our business and social environment presents challenges as well, period.
Yeah.
And then
Got
capital W, we.
That's the only change.
Okay.
To paragraph 2. I just think it makes it flow better with the previous paragraph, commissioners. Like the paragraph 2 is about stuff we're dealing with in terms of, how our organization is driven. And then there's also the context, and that paragraph 3 is really addressing this. How about what is our context, which is also changing and presenting challenges. Is that okay with everybody?
I think so.
Okay, then the commissioners.
Chris has his hand up.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, just a reminder, we're coming up on Jim's hard stop here in just like another minute or two.
Yeah.
Okay. Anne sent an email and said we're not being consistent because it says Whatcom County PUD. So Jim, can you just make sure that we take out that it's Whatcom PUD so we're consistent?
Yeah, I'll make sure that happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and then I have my last change, if you have time for it, Jim.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a sentence at the end of paragraph 4. Of course, you have to fill in the XX, but the sentence at the end of, I want to add one more sentence at the end of paragraph 4. And that sentence is, The plan explores significant growth in scope and depth of the PUD.
Okay. Does that look good to everybody?
Sorry. I had a phone call.
No problem. So Jim,
Okay.
you'll do one last read through of that to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
there's no typos in there. Otherwise,
Yep.
looking good, and we're excited to see it with all the beautiful graphic design.
And and when we get it in the end, I planned in another quick cycle with the designer. If there's something that pops up, we can change that too. So you'll have time to look at. So I will work on this and get this back to you as soon as I can.
Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
Well,
Thank you, Jim.
Good work. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Mike?
No.
Oh, I thought
have
you had
nothing.
your hand up. Okay.
I was saying
Um,
goodbye.
Okay, let me find my agenda here. I think the next thing on our agenda is the approval of our agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda, remaining agenda for the commission meeting.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Okay, so the next is the consent agenda, the approval of the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of June 28th, the approval of the meeting minutes from the special meeting of July 5th, and the approval of claims for July 12th, 2020.
I'll make
I'll
that
make-
motion. Oh, go
And I'll
ahead.
second it, Mike.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Our first public comment. Anybody have any public comment? I'm not seeing any hands, but I'll just wait another 10 seconds in case anyone changes their mind. Okay, not seeing any hands. We will have a public comment at the end of our meeting if anyone changes their mind. The next item on the agenda is old business, and the first item is the broadband program update. Chris, is that you?
It is. Andrew is off today. He's enjoying some time with his family. That's well earned and well deserved.
Yes.
I guess the most important thing, that there are a whole bunch of administrative things that have happened in the last couple of weeks, but one of them is quarterly updates to the CURB program for the grants that we've got. That's all done. But the most important thing has been the small team that we got together, and that was comprised of John Sitkin, Annette, Andrew, and myself. And what we were doing was we've heard from Kitsap, and we've got their model, and we've done a lot of behind the scenes kind of research on their model. And this small group of people got together and said, okay, what here is really good that we can use immediately? What would need some work? What has some challenges? And we've kind of parsed that out. I don't want to go into any detail on that because a lot of it had to do with work that John was doing. And that's going to be the subject of our executive session today. So right now that's, a lot of the grants that supposedly were to come out the 1st of July have now been pushed out, and all we're hearing is late summer. So I'm talking about the next cycle of grants that are going to be coming out. So that I'll stop and entertain any questions. All right, thank you, commissioners.
And I just add, Commissioner Grant and I discussed that one of the things we've looked at, as Chris referred to, is the financial risks and legal issues and risks surrounding some of the model as may be applied here and the differences with Kitsap. And we'll go into some discussion on that, but we've had a lot of due diligence work on that, and even discussing with Kitsap counsel and exchanges with bond counsel, both for Kitsap and our own bond counsel.
Yeah, there's been a lot of due diligence on this, an awful lot of work in the last few weeks.
Okay. Should we move on to the next item on the agenda? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so we'll move on to the general manager report. That's you.
That's the last 2 weeks off, so I just wanted to say everything went well in my absence. Brian did an outstanding job, and of course you commissioners supported him, and that's pretty much it for me for right now.
Okay. Commissioner reports. Who would like to go first? Mike, you have your camera on. Do you want to go first?
I can. I have nothing to report on except that I will be attending by Zoom the PUD meeting that's taking place in Wenatchee. So I'll be attending everything by Zoom and will not be going down there as planned. So I had to back away from that. That was it.
Commissioner Deshmani?
Hi, I was planning to attend in person. I actually leave with Chris this afternoon, because I don't have to. I'll be updating you about how I modify my reservation. It's my ball. Thanks for making the reservation, but I probably won't be staying there tonight. Just FYI. But I'll take care of all that, and we'll still planning to attend in person. I also have Watershed Management Board meeting this week. So a lot of prep work associated with, I'm glad we got the strategic plan stuff done too, because it does inform the direction we're taking at the Watershed Management Board, but no decision actions. Steve, you can back me on that, right? It's just the Watershed Management Board meeting this week is just in keeping the discussions open. And I look forward to reporting on what happens this week at our next meeting.
Okay, is that it from you?
Yeah, I was planning to have many meetings that were canceled because of COVID.
A lot of, yeah.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda, but it didn't happen. So I got more time in the garden as a result. So.
Okay, I'll do mine. The first thing I did after our last meeting was go on a refinery tour at Phillips 66, which was great. Learned a lot. Thanks to Phillips 66 for hosting me. Andrew and I did a meeting with Senator Liz Lovelit and Bruce McDougall, who's a city council member for City of Anacortes. And we had a really good discussion about a number of topics related to broadband. One exciting outcome of that is that the City of Anacortes they have a public ISP, Access Anacortes, and they would be interested in participating as an ISP on some of our open access networks. So that was really just to make connections. Senator Liz Lovelit is one of the more informed members of the Senate on broadband. So just kind of keeping those connections going between the county council, the PUD staff, commission, and her office. Had quite a few discussions and back and forth with council member Kaylee Galloway on her Dig Once memo, which she will be presenting tomorrow at the Whatcom Council of Governments meeting, which I will also be attending, and hopefully Chris will be able to log in for some of that too.
I
And
should get all of it now, Commissioner.
okay. And then I'm also going to be attending the PUD meetings virtually. And Atul, are you planning to make an announcement that we are switching roles in that meeting with the Energy Committee?
Yes, and I've been lobbying.
Okay, so I'll be there just as a attendee, not as the official person. And then I'll be on the telecom committee, as I always am. And then just wanted to let everyone know too that I will not be at the next meeting for sure. We'll be missing a few subsequent meetings as well, as we adjust to the new, as we welcome a new member of our family. Just wanted to thank everyone for your support. I know that Commissioner Deshmani, you are very well prepared to jump into the president role for a few meetings, as I take care of my health and my family's health, which should be all of our number one priority.
Yeah, it
So
is.
thank you, everyone.
Commissioner Grant, do you want me to follow up on our discussion over the weekend here?
Sure.
Okay, just on this issue?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we discussed that, there's a circumstance in the state law that commissioner and more than 60 days, there's an issue about the position unless excused. So I was going to suggest a unanimous consent of for leave for Commissioner Grant for her pregnancy, and not knowing the circumstances, but we had discussed upwards of 90 days or more as may be needed for her health, and that it just be recorded as unanimous consent if there's no objection.
There's no objection, but I have a further kind of inquiry into a subject that I think I want maybe appropriate to bring up now. I was planning to bring it up later. I want to bring it up now, and that directly relates to this point, and that is that I want to have a way to be able to register Commissioner Grant's input on matters where we feel like we need it. And Open Public Meetings Act requires certain procedure around that. But is there any workaround for being able to get input from Commissioner Grant on things that are pressing to the commission that may happen while Commissioner Grant is not attending the meetings, to capture the Commissioner Grant's opinion on important issues? I feel like we need a way to do that if we can.
I think Chris and I may be saying the same thing here in a moment, but I would recommend that you convey the questions to Chris, who then can inquire of Commissioner Grant, and then Chris can report out at a commission meeting in an update memo or something like that.
I was going to suggest the exact same thing.
Okay, so can we then, okay, so Chris, so you and I will just have to be a little bit more disciplined in giving having a regular meeting. So I think the agenda and packet goes on a particular day. Having a procedure, Chris, between you and I, where we make sure we give Commissioner Grant sufficient time also to respond to items that are pressing and pertinent, so that we can capture them in the appropriate meeting.
Well, Commissioner, since you're going to be acting as president of the board, I currently have a meeting with Commissioner Grant at 1 o'clock every Monday, just a phone call. And
yeah,
that's where we have our updates. I would suggest that I leave that time slot alone on my calendar and that you and I talk at 1 on Monday.
Yeah, okay, excellent.
And also, I mean, I would just say too that I think that moving to hybrid meetings has changed things quite significantly for all of us, and has made managing, taking care of family members easier with that option. So, I want to make sure that I am giving, you know, I'm planning to sort of play things by ear a little bit. And will plan on participating via Zoom once I'm back online. So, or once I'm back.
So are you,
at least initially.
Commissioner Grant, are you suggesting that for a certain amount of time, I may still be, you still may like me to lead the meeting, but you would still participate in a non-chair role? Or are you suggesting that you want the flexibility whenever you're back, and then we'll just, we'll call an audible and we'll switch out?
I think that you should definitely plan on being chair for our next meeting and both the August meetings, assuming we're having both August meetings. Chris, you discussed potentially moving to just one August meeting, like the port does, but I don't want to preempt that conversation if you're not ready to have it. And then, yeah, I think we'll play it by ear after that.
Okay.
I think there's.
And I'm completely willing to be supportive in however that means. If you know, whatever you need, if you need me to stay and you know, be a chair of a meeting and where you're not sure whether you're going to be attending or not, and then you come in and you want to take the chair, you got the gavel back anytime you want it. So
nobody ever even gave me a gavel. I've never even had one. So
yeah, I never got a gavel either, if that makes you feel better.
Well, I really appreciate the support. And yeah, I mean, like I said a few months ago, this is sort of uncharted territory. So there's not like a cut and dry process for what this looks like. So we're kind of making it up as we go. I will, you know, keep all of you in the loop as we have news.
Yes, delighted for good news.
And again, for the record, the absence has been excused. If the absence occurs for the hybrid meeting.
Wishing you postpartum euphoria instead of postpartum depression.
Thank you. It's July. July seems like a better time than the middle of the winter to bring in to welcome a new one. So thank you again for the support, and I think that's all I've got. Which means that I need to move us to the next agenda item, which is public comment. Not seeing any hands raised. I'm going to close public comment. And the next item on our agenda is an executive session. And John, do you estimated that this?
I estimated 60 minutes based in part on our conversation the other day. We could end up quicker. If we do, we'll just end up and adjourn sooner. No actions anticipated. And this is potential litigation and review the legal and financial risk around potential courses of action.
Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and we'll join the executive session at 9:45.
And there is a separate Zoom link invite for that.
Great. And then we will be coming back after the executive session is over to officially close the meeting. So we'll see each other in 5 minutes for that executive session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We just completed our executive session. There was no action. So is there anything else today for the good of the order?
Yes, just want to speak on behalf of the whole PUD community, I'm sure. And everybody that knows you, Christine, best wishes to you and your expanding delightful family.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Deshmani. We will provide an update as soon as we have news. So thank you again for all the support and yeah, just really appreciate it. So anything else? With that, I just wanted to say thanks for joining the meeting, everyone. The meeting is closed.